All right, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, welcome to the Robb Crocker Show. My name is Alex Gonzalez, and of course, I'm here with JB as always.
Hey.
And the man of the hour, Robb Crocker of the Robb Crocker Show. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Dance with the devil, walk with the angels, and always remember, if it ain't black, it's going to be white. So let's get it on.
Let's do it. We got a lot to talk about today, so I'm being told.
Craziness in America, everywhere you turn. One person says one thing and the truth is the other. What is it you believe is what'll tell me about you. So when someone tells you your house is on fire and you choose not to get out of your house and the fire department does not come and your house burns down, whose fault is it, Gonzo?
Anyone but mine.
JB?
Just Gonzo's house.
Well,
it's the person who's too naive to look over their shoulder and see that their house is actually burning down.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, right now, where we are in our country, we have a situation in California that is burning down, essentially. And you have a mayor of Los Angeles, a governor of California, who thinks that everything is under control and that there are no issues and there's no reason for the National Guard to be there to prevent anything from getting out of control. Well, if you know that the house is going to burn down, wouldn't you want the fire department to be there to put it out before it actually caught on fire?
A normal person, yes.
Well, what Gavin Newsom's doing, he's eliminating himself from ever having the opportunity to be president of the United States. He's showing how inadequate and how much of a poor leader that he is. I don't know if you guys have seen it, that he is trying to sue the Trump administration to get the National Guard out of California.
Yes.
But fortunately, for Californians, the judge shot that down. So someone with some common sense has finally spoke up. I don't know about you guys, when you were growing up, I hope that your mom and dad said, hey, don't throw rocks at windshields. Don't throw rocks at windows.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't think my parents had to tell me that. But if I ever went off the rails and thought it was fun to throw rocks at moving cars, then I'm sure they would, at the very least, tell me that and probably whip my ass in the process.
So how have we gotten to the point to where that isn't violent and that's tolerable and accepted by people? I always say that every action has an equal or greater reaction. Well, if you're dumb enough to throw a rock at a car, your action was pretty stupid. And the reaction should be get your ass beat or go to jail. But according to the liberal media and the Democrats who are out in California, there's no violence going on. But I see cars burning. I see businesses being looted. And these businesses in this district that this is going on, 80% of them minority owned. Mm-hmm. So the people who are doing this are hurting their own people.
Well, I think these people have been brainwashed to think that the reason for doing so justifies it. And we can logically explain why that's not the case, but these people are highly emotionally, they're being taken advantage of emotionally by the media, and they are going out, and herd mentality is part of it, throwing rocks at police officers, the cars, looting businesses, property damage all over the place. So I mean, but for me, I just look at it and I go, oh, so it's BLM all over again. Here we go. It's the same playbook.
The means don't meet the method. This all started because ICE was out doing their job arresting criminals with illegal charges, the charges being rape, child molestation, murder. These were severe criminals who deserved to be arrested. Unlike just going and grabbing brown people off the street. So bystanders took it upon themselves to get in the way of this, which put a lot of people at risk. And this is what's created the chaos that's going on in California. When I see someone burn the American flag, that tells me that they have no love or respect for our country. So those people should not be at the top of the list having a meeting with someone getting the opportunity to stay in this country. They should go to the top of the list of getting deported.
Yeah, for sure. I think going back to what you're saying about why, quote unquote, violence is now being tolerated, part of the reason is because in the places where these are happening, and LA is just one of the examples, the local government is allowing it to happen, first of all. And then you have a governor over there who's saying, no, don't send the National Guard or take back the National Guard so that the state can handle it.
Yeah,
but then they don't handle it anyway. So you're allowing these people to get away with it. They're going to continue to do it for any and every reason. And that's a big part of it, is the fact that this was supposed to be organized in Tampa today. And you're not going to hear about anything going on in Tampa because Ron DeSantis and the local government here is not going to allow anything to happen. But it's happened with BLM and with this in certain cities because they're intentionally allowing it to happen.
I can recall probably the biggest scenario that I've ever seen in my life was the Rodney King in LA. You guys may not remember it, but it was a George Floyd times 1,000. Justifiably so. I think everybody has the ability to react to certain situations. I don't think any man or woman, color, race, goes to the Israel thing, could ever be treated with disrespect. But this is being spun back against Donald Trump and back against America, which, put your blinders on. This man said for 2 years, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to protect America. I'm going to get rid of the illegals, criminal illegals from here. He's not doing anything that he didn't win by a major amount of people. That's why over 68% of the people in the United States agree with what he's doing, deporting illegals. And unfortunately, I think the visual of people running around with Mexican, Honduran, El Salvadorian flags is going to hurt their effort to become American citizens. All it's going to do is blacken the eyes for everyone to see that these people actually need to go.
Well, I asked the question too. Realistically, how many of these people that are at the riots are actually illegal? Because the way I see it is, you would be retarded if you're illegal to go to one of these things where ICE is at, where the cops are at, where the National Guard is at. Like, that would be the last place you'd want to be. I believe that a lot of these people that are at the riots are American citizens that have been completely brainwashed, that think they're standing up for something right. They're the ones that are waving the Mexican flags and everything like that.
Well, when people show up with $100 gas masks and they're getting them out of boxes, hammers, it's an organized effort by somebody or some entity or some group that is trying to do detrimental damage to the United States of America.
For sure. It's the same thing every time. They show up with a pallet of bricks. They show up with these gas masks. They show up with blunt objects. And then everyone comes and grabs them. It's all planned. It's all organized. This isn't a spur of the moment kind of thing. This isn't a rally cry that happened organically. This is all a staged event, as it always is with these mass riots that they show on television.
Then you have the libtard government saying that every ICE agent or anyone that's out there representing the federal government should be demasked so their facial recognition can get gotten, and then they can exploit that to advertise and tell people where they live, and so they can get harassed. It's the mindset of one side of the government compared to the other is completely asinine to me.
Yeah, I mean, if you want the ICE to take off their masks, I think all the rioters should take off theirs as well. We should do the same thing. Let's just have everyone in the system at that point.
What do you think about federal crime? If you're burning the American flag, it's an automatic 1-year sentence to federal prison.
Cool. Maybe 1 year.
Cool, or taking away a First Amendment?
No, I think that, quite honestly, and we can go over different examples, but speech is not entirely protected. Meaning, if you go into a crowded area and you shout fire or you shout bomb and it causes people to get hurt or injured because of it, that speech is not protected. Yeah. There are examples where speech is not protected under the First Amendment. And I believe that when you are, especially at a riot like this, at a protest, and you are burning the flag of the country that you supposedly moved to because it's a better place, that is speech that we should definitely maybe limit. I think that that is an act of war, essentially. If we went and did that in any other country, forget a year, it'd be 5 or 10 years, maybe worse.
Or killed.
So I think that, unfortunately, we're at a point right now, like I've said previously, we are at war, whether you accept it or not. And unfortunately, the rules of war are going to be a lot more strict than the rules of what was once a truly free nation.
What scares me, Gonzo, it's back in Vietnam, you had protesters that actually were fighting for or against the draft. It's kind of what that process was. And then there was a significant incident, tragedy at Kent State, which ultimately could possibly happen out here or out there in California when you have the National Guard and Marines. If they are accosted like the California police officers have been, hit with bags, hit with rocks, what happens if somebody unfortunately gets hurt or killed in this situation?
Well, I think that if the, exactly. If the Marine Corps is there and the National Guard is there and you decide to throw a lethal object at these people, you are going to be met with a response that you're not happy with. This isn't the LAPD anymore. This is serious business. People, it is very possible that people will be injured or even killed in this situation. And you know what's going to happen is they're going to show that all over the news. They're going to blame it on Trump. They're going to say that the U.S. military and the Trump administration is pure evil and that they're out here killing citizens. That's what you're going to see after that.
And once again, are they all citizens, or are they just hired? Like all the pallets of bricks that are laid out there, most likely by George Soros and other people who fund the weapons that they're using. In this case, it's the bricks.
again, so how does that get spun visually to where, like you were saying, Gonzo,
Yeah.
it's going to get turned that it's Trump's fault,
Oh, very easily.
where no one is being held accountable. If you're dumb enough to throw a fucking rock, or there's somebody back there hiding that has a gun and shoots at the National Guard or the Marines, every action has an equal or greater reaction. And the reaction is going to be swift, tremendous, and deadly. Because we cannot continue to have anarchy and chaos, whether it's California or this country. We have to start justifiably punishing criminals again. That's what happened for 4 years. I don't think anybody got arrested at any of the situations that occurred in the past under the previous administration.
All the BLM riots? No.
Actually, the people who did get arrested, the vice president was raising money for bail to get them out of jail.
Right.
It was crazy.
If I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But this coincides with what I've been talking about previously, which is when it comes to immigration, you have allowed millions and millions of undocumented people to come in here. And because of that, there is going to be a dramatic reaction, or there has to be a dramatic reaction and an overcorrection to that issue. Same thing with this. When you allow violence to go unchecked for so many years, and cities are destroyed, and people are hurt, and their lives are completely ruined, you have to have a drastic overcorrection in order to fix it. There has to be some sort of consequence to the actions of these people, or else it's going to continue, and we're going to see this for as long as this country is still around.
Well, I had a conversation with someone today, and with whether it's 15 to 25 million people who are here illegally, how are you ever going to deport all of them? I go back to the simple solution to give everyone an opportunity to go to a civic center, to an arena, have the government set up a processing situation with my app, and we try to stop preventing this. What's going on?
I thought we weren't going to be sensitive tonight.
I'm not being fucking sensitive. I'm being realistic. I don't want anybody burning the American flag. Point and simple. I want, if you're here illegally, opportunity, instead of you getting deported and creating chaos between you and your family, if you're here hardworking, illegal, but want to stay here and continue benefiting America, find a way to make those people have an opportunity to do that. If they choose to go out in the street and burn the American flag, you heard what I said. You got to get deported.
So use
there's only one flag in this country. It's fine to be proud of where you're from, whether it's Costa Rica, Honduras, El Salvador, Mexico, wherever it may be.
Venezuela.
This is not the World Cup.
So what you're saying
the
is
United States of America.
So what you're saying is
The
use
World Cup's coming to California in a couple years. Fly your flag then.
So what you're saying is use the bricks that George Soros, gave them to build things and not break things.
You're an ass, JB.
I'm realistic, and I hold people accountable.
Well, the problem is, 3 weeks ago when we talked about that job in Tallahassee that got raided, there's not been any progress on that job since then.
Well, I mean, of course, they have to find new people to work.
There you go. New people. Who are they?
But should have been started with illegals?
Excuse me?
I'm saying, should have been started with the wrong people? Shouldn't they have afforded them the work visas in advance?
There is no construction site, whether it's Florida, anywhere in the United States, that is doing what you're suggesting, because there are not people to go do that. You could go to St. Louis, other metropolitan cities that are union based, and possibly get certain trades to do that. But as far as just everyday construction across the continental United States, nobody wants to do those jobs.
So what you're saying is that 90% of the construction that's going on in America right now is done by undocumented immigrants?
Absolutely.
Okay. And
I would say 95% of everyone's grass and lawns that are getting cut as well.
now, are they all undocumented or are they all just Hispanic?
Undocumented.
Okay. Can we find the numbers on that?
What are you, Gonzo?
I'm documented.
He's a Jew.
Not only that, I was born here. Don't slander my name like that.
Run that up, JB. Ask Grok what that number is.
Find out the percentage of people in construction in the United States that are documented versus undocumented.
All right.
So that's my biggest fear, guys, regarding that in the California scenario. I think it's going to get overplayed. I think sooner or later there will be an event that gets magnified to create the narrative that the Democratic Party wants. And unfortunately, somebody's going to lose their life.
Realistically, yes. My question really is just, how is the response actually going to be? Are there enough people that are just tired of it and are basically saying, like Scott, saying they fuck around and find out, you got what you deserve. I'm surprised that this lasted this long. Versus what the Democrats want, which is an uproar. People saying, oh my God, I can't believe they killed the poor person because they were throwing rocks at people and hurting people. I don't believe this happened.
All right. According to Grok, approximately 25 to 30% of the U.S. construction workforce is foreign-born. But if you break it down, undocumented is only 13.7 to 23% of the construction workers, so about 1.5 to 1.8 million people. All documented immigrants is rough to 7 to 16%. U.S.-born documented is 70 to 75% of all construction workforce.
Well, I actually know more than Grok.
Of course, you know more than everyone. Even us sometimes.
Now we're getting somewhere, boys.
Now we're spreading fake news.
All right, what are we drinking tonight, Gonzo?
Well, I decided to switch it up. Last week I had the Branch and Barrel, the wheated bourbon, but now I have the Branch and Barrel flagship bourbon. I had to switch it up from one great bottle to another, but Branch and Barrel, of course, is the best whiskey in all of Colorado and soon the rest of the world, and that's what we're drinking tonight.
What about the cigar guys? What are y'all smoking this evening?
I'm actually smoking a party favorite from Blend and Barrel.
Yes, Blend and Barrel is what we consider our home lounge here in Sanford, Florida. That's where we go all the time.
Where?
Blend and Barrel.
You said Tampa.
No, I said Sanford.
Okay, I heard Tampa.
Sorry, I didn't pronunciate as well as I should have.
Well, always remember the cigar guys and all the other sponsors that we have. We're very fortunate. Blackheart Gear, they make all this possible. And I know we got Scott. Anybody else commented tonight on anything, or no one else gives a shit?
Scott is the man. He is the one that is commenting here.
I can't believe we don't have any Latin American people watching tonight who actually agree or disagree with what we're saying.
Well, according to you, they all got deported, so.
No, I have not said they have yet in the process.
So they're hiding.
Yes.
They're not comfortable doxing themselves anymore.
I've suggested the app. I've suggested the opportunity for everyone, instead of going out protesting ICE, they should go to their local mayors, their local government, and say, listen, we're here. We want to be a part of the community. We don't want to be a nuisance. Help us become citizens.
And then ICE comes out and says, we can help with that.
It's going to happen one way or the other.
Now that is a true statement. It is going to happen one way or the other.
So I'm suggesting a feasible way that's beneficial for the country and beneficial for the people and their families, because I hate to see a family get torn apart where you've got a man and a wife, and the wife is legal, the kids are legal, and the husband's illegal, and the husband's getting deported. Because then the burden of taking care of that family falls on Gonzo, JB, Crocker, and the rest of the American citizens.
Why does it fall on us?
Taxes.
So that goes back to the welfare conversation.
Well, one way or the other, I'm trying to keep the husband here to work, pay taxes, take care of his wife, take care of his kids, and kumbaya, everybody's happy.
Yes. And they can do that legally.
Let's figure it out. All right, guys, this weekend, your favorite president has a birthday.
JFK?
DJT.
Yes, sir.
And he's having a big parade
Really?
to celebrate the Army's 250th birthday, which in turn is celebrating his birthday. So this is all taking place in Washington, D.C., and he's made a statement. What's that, JB?
I said, oh, man, this better be the most protected party ever.
Well, he's made it clear that if there's any instigators or anyone protesting, what is it he likes to say? They will be in big, big trouble.
You mean accountability?
So,
I hate that word.
but in turn, you have the Democrats and the Democratic Party saying this should not take place.
Aw.
You know why they're saying it shouldn't take place?
Why is that?
Because it costs too much money. It's a waste of money.
Now it's a waste of money.
So I look at this. This is an opportunity for America to see the might and power of the United States Army, to celebrate the individuals who protect us on a daily basis. So why can we not recognize this group of individuals without denigrating them and saying it's a waste of money? Where, in my mind, the waste of money took place over the last 4 years when you were given a cell phone, you were given a ATM card, you were given hotel rooms. So I don't understand. We talked about it last week or the week before, how the Democrats are trying to learn how to talk to men. Well, this is a perfect example. You don't have a representative who's smart enough, has enough comments. Actually, you do. I listened to a quote from Fetterman today, senator from Pennsylvania. He said, my party, or our party, is delusional when they cannot openly say that there's crime, there's chaos going on in California. This is where you lose the morale and the moral judgment of common people.
Yeah.
So, one hand, you've got the Democratic leaders saying there's nothing wrong with California. Then you've got the same Democratic leaders belittling a parade to celebrate the 250th birthday of the United States Army.
I think that the waste of money that could have been easily prevented was having to rebuild all these cities that deal with the riots. I feel like that could have been prevented, but what do I know?
This is what President Trump's doing in California. Preventive maintenance.
Yeah, which I think is okay. I mean, it could have been sent sooner, in my opinion, but I think if the local police would have handled it the first time, we wouldn't be in this position.
Their answer was less is more, and they never realized that more was needed. But President Trump did.
Well, the common theme with Gavin Newsom is he doesn't realize every single time that more is needed until, actually, not even until it's too late. He denies it until his deathbed is what it looks like. So whatever tragedy it is in California, Gavin Newsom says, well, we tried. Guess we're just going to sit on our ass and do nothing.
But if you look since the fires that were there, I don't think there's been 10% of any of the homes that were destroyed rebuilt.
No.
Since that happened, because of the local government with permitting, where the federal government has just blanketly okayed all of this to get done. So it's just poor management, poor leadership, and it just shows you without a quality leader that local municipalities will fail. And they all unfortunately happen in libtard areas.
Well, and they should be willing to deal with the consequences when people start leaving by the masses and, you know, moving to better states or better cities. I think that, I guess the theme of this podcast is, you know, with every situation, there's going to be a consequence, and it's going to be of equal or greater force, essentially. So if they are choosing to run their season in the ground, they have to deal with the consequences that follow it.
That's one of the things that scares me about with the government getting out of FEMA and turning it over to the states. I think the three of us would all agree there's going to be states that successfully handle tragedy a lot better than other states.
Yeah.
Where Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, I think that they would all be able to handle the catastrophe and take care of everything a lot more diplomatically than a state like California or New York or New Jersey.
Yeah.
Very rarely does a hurricane hit New Jersey, but when the hurricane hit up there, it's probably been 9 or 10 years ago. I still don't think they've recovered in certain beachfront areas.
Yeah. Scott is asking why the CHP would decide to park a bunch of cars underneath an overpass and basically allow them to be destroyed. So obviously what he's alluding to is the fact that just like all these other riots, they're all staged and the media gets there and shows the worst of the worst, which is allowed to happen. And then it cycles through everywhere else in the United States, and then everyone goes, oh my God, look what's happening.
I think that they were trying to keep the freeway open right there. There was an exit ramp coming underneath that bridge from what I read. But like you said, they're throwing rocks down. We probably better move the cars, else they're going to get destroyed. But did you see the driverless taxis get set afire?
I didn't realize there were driverless taxis, but I definitely saw cars on fire.
Well, there was a couple of driverless taxis that had a big light on the top, and they had a guy on top of it with a skateboard beating the shit out of the
I did see that
thing that spins.
Yeah.
So, but there's no violence. I guess it doesn't count if you're beating up a driverless car.
Right. It only counts as violence when it's against another human. Which, don't look at the times where they threw rocks at police officers, though. But that's not violent. They're not people. They don't count.
Rocks that went through windshields and hit officers.
Yeah, but they're not real people, so just ignore that.
But they're trying to spin that we're on the verge of a civil war.
Right.
A civil war with who?
Well, a civil war with ourselves is usually how that works.
But what I'm saying, though, Gonzo, is it going to be the white people versus the brown people? How are they spinning this to be a civil war? Because when you have 70% of the country agreeing with the scenario of what's going on, and they're happy with it, Who's the Civil War with?
I think they're just mainly trying to pin it as red hats versus everyone else, essentially.
Well, it's unfortunate that the same administration doesn't protect Jews, is trying to protect illegal people on the street committing crimes. This is the narrative that elected Donald Trump. And they're not changing. And they're not going to change. The leadership that is out there is on a ship that is sinking. And I recommend anybody and everybody to get off that ship. Plain and simple. It's not going to take you anywhere. It's going to spiral downward.
Well, sometimes you have to lose a few ships to learn a good lesson.
You would have thought they would have learned a good lesson when they lost to Donald Trump.
Yeah, unfortunately, they still believe that they have enough power to do something. And being backed by certain entities, they might. But so far, we really haven't seen the Democratic Party have much success in terms of how they're viewed right now.
There's things that matter to the American people, and immigration is number one. And what the Democrats are sitting on fighting, they're fighting on a hill that they can't win. They're still saying, you have an Olympic gold medalist, Simone Biles, telling someone that there should be boys and girls sports.
Yeah, okay, get back to the gym.
So this is a non-starter. If you go to any, all right, we'll go to the fucking View. The View. And all 2.5 million viewers they have a day. Middle-aged women who haven't gotten dick in a long time. I don't know. But there's only 2.5 of them. They're the one preaching, oh, you got to let boys play in girls' sports. They're preaching Donald Trump sucks. Donald Trump is Hitler. No. You and your 2.5 million viewers who are not getting any, go away. Nobody cares.
Well, we shouldn't be listening to these people in the first place. Because
I don't watch them.
Usually when we listen to these types of people, we run into a lot of issues.
Well, the problem is, I think that's a lot of Karens who create and instigate stuff that really didn't happen.
Yeah, well, they have nothing better to do, so I don't blame them. I mean, they've been divorced once or twice, and they can't find a new husband. So what else are you going to do but ruin someone else's life?
But if you're sitting there listening to Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, what the fuck is wrong with you, man?
They got paid a lot of money to say what they're saying.
They are getting paid a lot of money. But the idiot that's listening to them isn't getting paid anything. Who advertises with them? JB, tell me who advertises with The View.
Well, definitely not the Robb Crocker show. I can tell you that, you know.
What's
Blackheart gear.
Definitely not us, for sure.
Exactly. I don't think there's any cigar guys in Blackheart gear there.
No, it's usually a lot of emotional ads, medication ads with a bunch of side effects. That could be one too. Yeah. Maybe a Planned Parenthood ad if they still do that.
I haven't seen any of that in a long time.
Not that they would need it; they're dried up already.
Prune ad?
Yeah, I could see that.
Raisins? Metamucil?
I don't know. I haven't seen an ad for raisins since I was a single digit.
They used to be California raisins. I remember that. Now it's California pistachios.
Yeah, Scott said that feminism is what brought The View. And my question to him is, who brought feminism to America?
Well, I have an answer that I always say, but I'm not going to say it tonight. But because none of them actually could do that. And none of them would actually rule the world. I want to know what kind of drugs Ted Danson was on when he was dating or married to Whoopi Goldberg.
Oh, man. That's crazy.
I don't see it, but love is blind, I guess.
In his case, yes.
So at the end of the day, you were talking about this happening in Tampa with the illegal protest.
Mm-hmm.
What you said, Gonzo, makes a lot of sense. If you know there's going to be hundreds or thousands of people protesting, why would the ICE or the government not go circumvent and circle that event and just start arresting people?
Well, in a state that's run by competent people, they do. And in states that are run by Gavin Newsom, they don't. It's plain and simple.
So, what do you think's going to happen in California?
I think that if this continues, there will be a few people that might end up being killed, quite honestly.
American citizens.
Most likely, these are the people that are there. And
So American citizens are going to be killed by the Marines or National Guard or police.
It's quite possible. Probably not the police in this situation because they only use rubber bullets. But maybe the Marines or the National Guard. It's possible.
Do you know how many times in the United States of America that American citizens have been killed by the United States military?
Not off the top of my head.
Very few. I think you could go to, I'm not sure when Lyndon Johnson enacted the National Guard in Alabama if anyone actually died there. I know somebody died at Kent State. Ask Scooter. Scooter's he's a book of knowledge.
Well, someone did die from Capitol Police. That's similar.
Was that staged or was that real?
Exactly.
Mix of both, but it was definitely orchestrated.
JB, I'm surprised you haven't
Scott
mentioned
Norris.
anything in the past 3 or 4 weeks about all the released documents that you wanted for Epstein, Kennedy, and Martin Luther King.
What about them?
You were pretty adamant about with Cash Patel coming on board, Dan Bongino, that you thought we would see all this historical data.
Real quick before you get into that, because Scott answers really quickly. 500,000 in 1863. Those were the numbers.
In or since?
Civil War?
He said in, well, yeah, so it makes sense.
Yes, Civil War.
Someone says that the reason that American citizens are over there protesting is because they're speaking for people who can't.
All right. No hablo español.
Well, meaning what I said earlier, which is you would be dumb to be undocumented and go to one of these things.
Yeah, it's like, come pick me out.
I think that between the three of us, I've spoke very adamantly and passionately about how to help the illegal immigrant situation in a way that is sensitive, peaceful, and judicial without upsetting the apple cart. But I don't think anyone's listening. But I know going out on the street, waving a Mexican flag is not going to benefit your cause.
Well, too, the problem is if we just talk about it, nothing's going to happen. Just like in these protests, if they're out there screaming that they want something, it doesn't mean that it's just going to happen. And then when they resort to violence, a lot of times it actually equals an opposite reaction of what they want. So realistically, no one is out there doing anything about it to make these things happen.
I agree with what you say, Gonzo, about the reaction's going to be the opposite of what they're hoping for. I think it's going to bring a hammer down that's larger and stronger for the American people, plus the government's going to say, here you go. Here's proof right here. This is what's happening. This is why they have to go.
Yeah.
So I just hate to see it because there's so many things in value that they add in our country and our communities. But I don't know how you get rid of 20 million people, but they're sure going to try when they want to arrest 3,000 people a day. I don't know how you arrest 3,000 people a day.
Usually with 3,000 people doing the arresting.
Okay, where do you get 3,000 arrestees, Gonzo?
Well, you just said there's 20 million illegals, so there's
Yeah, but I'm saying,
Where are you going to school and church now? Where are you going?
I think more people
what I'm
should go to
asking.
school and church.
What?
I think more people should go to school and church.
So where are you going to arrest the people?
Oh, well, they did it in Tallahassee,
So we're going to job sites.
if that's where they are.
Well, that's where they are.
Some of them.
Job sites, church, school. I don't, and gas stations between 11:30 and 12:30 while they're there taking lunch, warming up their food in the microwave. There's a gas station on Lake Mary Boulevard in Florida that you go to between that time. I think there's literally 20 different landscape companies that all go there to have lunch at the same time.
I haven't seen ice there.
Not yet. You'll probably go there now.
I know, you basically doxed them. You're supposed to be the champion for these people, and you just told them where they go. You doxed them.
Let's hope they're all legal, guys.
Well,
But
according to the
What do you
no.
guys
My
see
turn.
as the
My turn.
biggest crisis in America? Right?
My turn. According to the statistics, a majority of them are actually documented and legal, so it's okay.
There you go.
Sorry, what'd you say?
According to Grok. But what do you guys see as the biggest, deadliest scenario that we face in America right now with everything that's going on around us with our new president?
I mean, the left's constantly fighting themselves and us, and basically they should self-deport themselves. But at the end of the day, the left causes so much issues. We can't be fighting American citizens and the world at the same time. You don't want a distraction and advertise us as weak. Yeah, the Democratic Party does this on a daily basis.
Gonzo, what do you see?
I was going to say that I think right now the biggest issue we face is people in power that don't have the nation's best interests, i.e. people on the left that are in government and people on the left that are going to these protests turn into riots and wreaking havoc on the city. I think that right now here in the United States, that's one of the biggest issues.
I think when you have elected officials who represent certain districts, certain communities, and certain people, that they're being misled by someone who's been in political office for so long, they're disconnected with the reality of what's going on in the country. And they're taking people down a road where the bridge is out. And they're going to run into the river and they're going to crash their car. Because the communities have to move on from this leadership if they ever want to have the opportunity to have success in their communities again. You can't keep voting for color. You can't keep voting for something that does not work. You have to listen to the people talking. This is why I always say a voice is colorless. Listen to the person speaking. Don't look at the color of their skin. And when you do that, you have the opportunity to get out of your own way and move forward in your community, in your state, and in this country. because there are people out here that have the best interests in your success financially, spiritually, mentally, safety. Because if you're not safe, none of the other stuff matters. Safety is first. The people in California were not safe. That's why the president did what he did.
Exactly.
To protect the community.
Yeah. I think you have to do more than just listen, though. You have to have the discernment to tell when someone is lying, because 90% of these politicians, when they get on stage, 90 might be too low, but they lie. So you can't just listen to them and say, this is why Obama got elected. You have to have the discernment to know what is true and what is not, and when you're being played.
I think politicians have the ability to tell people in the crowd where they are, what they want to hear. That's why it was so dynamic when Donald Trump did what he did. He wasn't a politician. He ran the first time, got elected, became president. And when I think he was I'll give you an analogy. He was on the JV team when he did that. He had no idea what the hell was going on in Washington, D.C. He surrounded himself with people that he thought had his best interest at heart, but ultimately were stabbing him in the back at the same time. 4 years later, he ran, right, wrong, or indifferent. He lost to Joe Biden. You can say he was cheated, whatever. But I'm actually glad for the country that he lost, because it gave him an opportunity to sit back and learn and look. Because I honestly believe he has surrounded himself with the best cabinet that any president could have ever happened. When you look at the resumes of the people that are working for the United States of America, they're strong. They care. They support him. They support our country. So what else could you ask for other than the misery we had for 4 years?
Yeah. Scott says that Jill is pegging Biden, so he's used to getting beat.
I'm glad Scooter's on board with us. We'll see if we can get him on live here in a couple weeks, see if I can get him down to Florida.
Sounds good. Always great to have another voice.
He's always entertaining for sure. If he can read that night. I know he's from Missouri. But in lieu of all this that we're talking about, what we haven't talked about is the economy, the tariffs, Iran, because there's so many parts and pieces that are moving all around the world other than just the United States. We talked about it last week. JB, did you go look at what we talked about with the drones that got attacked, the Russian Air Force? How minimal of what they use to do so much damage.
Yeah, we looked at it.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact like brands and stuff they use. I don't remember. Sorry, what were you gonna say?
No, I was just saying we looked at it. Yeah.
But it was minimal amount of equipment that they were able to use to attack the Russian military.
Yeah, it was probably our
we
equipment.
were talking about how that could happen in the United States.
Yeah, you were talking about that.
I was talking about it, and y'all were disagreeing with me.
Yeah.
So y'all were wrong.
No, that's 2 against 1. And if we're all right and you're against us, you're wrong.
There's a pie in life, and we got 3 pieces here.
Yeah.
What flavor is it though?
Key lime.
Good
All
answer.
right,
Good
I'm
answer.
down with that.
Yeah, good answer.
That we can all agree on.
Oh.
So we've still got the Ukraine war going on. You got China, you got Iran, you got Taiwan. But this president is handling every one of these things simultaneously because he has the proper people hired in the right positions to manage what they're doing.
For sure. I think that it's definitely one of the best lineups we've had in a long time.
And I'm ready for the bromance, whatever you want to call it, between Trump and Elon Musk, that to be over, because I think anytime you put two alphas in a room together, you're going to have people that disagree. And it's just how you resolve the scenario at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Because it's better for America for the two of them to be on the same side.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it, but me and Alex fight all the time.
But only when we want the rest of the world to see it.
That's good. That was JB. That might have been the highlight of the night.
I try to be that light, that shining light in the darkness.
That's why I wore a white shirt.
There's times people message me and ask me if you're awake, so that was good.
He's too busy asking Grok and fact checking.
All right. Well, we've established tonight that everyone needs to stop watching The View. And if you're advertising on The View, definitely stop doing that. Get away from people who cannot tell you the truth. And I actually watched two different news organizations tonight that happened to be in LA reporting, and they were showing the peaceful side of things, where just a block down, another news organization was showing cars on fire.
Well, yeah, because the one news organization is showing people walking to the event, and the other organization is showing the actual event itself. It's very peaceful when they show up, and then all of a sudden, it's like, all right, we can cut here.
Well, speaking of that, I'm glad ABC got a set of balls and fired that commie reporter who was supposed to be, a reporter is supposed to be unbiased.
Just not our news.
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
We haven't had unbiased news reporters in quite a very long time.
At least 20 years.
Mainstream ones, yeah.
So, but ABC held him accountable because he posted some things on X, and they terminated him. So that's great. Now ABC just needs to go right across the hall, go to all the hags at The View and say, fired, 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 and fired. Now we're moving needles. Hell, I think all three of us could go to New York and film The View for a couple days and see what happens. I guarantee you their ratings would increase. Three
New York.
men on The View.
Straight.
Guiding the easy. You know what? You can play that part, Gonzo. That'll be good. That'll help ratings.
Exactly. See, I'm already helping. That's all I want to do.
That
Is
will
I just
help
want to
ratings.
help.
I'm sure Scooter will tune in.
Yeah, plot twist, it's not an act.
Basically, we won't lose any of the viewers.
For sure. But I want to make sure that everyone knows we joke around, but at the end of the day, all three of us love America, and we want to see America be prosperous. But tonight, we want to get a lot of shit off our ship, so we're going to start with you, JB. What do you want to get off your ship tonight?
I really want the LA riots to turn into something like mass arrests. Maybe he invokes the Insurrection Act for real this time, and not what may be hidden. I think the National Guard has to step in. There has to be a force that determines whether or not that, when you do attack police, you do vandalize, you're going to jail. There has to be some sort of accountability set. So we got to walk these protests off. The left, the deep state is always causing trouble. It's just time to have some accountability.
Yeah, I think my answer was going to be lack of accountability, which is essentially a great example that you just gave. But outside of that, there's obviously been a lot of a lacking of accountability in this nation as a whole, whether it's from the government or just from its people in general. We need to hold each other accountable. The country needs to hold citizens accountable. The country needs to hold themselves accountable. And we need to hold the government accountable before anyone else.
As a captain of this ship, when I see the seas are rough and I know the wind's blowing in our head, it's time to make a turn. And I want everyone who does not love this country and care about the success of your neighbor, your brothers, and your sisters, and all of us to get off of our ship. You have a choice to go back to your nation, where you're from. But if you don't believe in America and you don't want to see the red, white, blue, and the stars raised high with the sun shining on it bright, go home.
Amen to that. So make sure that you are subscribed to the Robb Crocker Show and hit that notification bell so you stay updated with every episode that we release. Hope you learned something today. Hope you had fun. And until next week, we'll see you later. Take care.